for this week is, are the individual lightning lane rides all worth spending money on? Which I think is a really good thing to consider when you're going to, and I think we should answer world and land, kind of both aspects of it. I think it's a really, really good question.
Yeah, it's a really hard one.
Yeah.
Because we always say, I feel like we always say it depends on like all of these, but it does. It depends on your budget, first of all, because they can get very expensive because you're paying per ride per person.
Right.
So if it is a ride that your vacation would be ruined if you didn't get to, if it's so important to you that like you get on this ride because it's going to be a make it or break it for you, then you might want to consider it depending on the ride, of course, and your budget.
Right.
But like I'll answer Disneyland. Maybe you can answer Disney World.
Sure.
So for Disneyland, the individual lightning lane, there's not that many. We have Rise of the Resistance over in Galaxy's Edge for Disneyland. And we have Radiator Springs Racers. I think there's only two, right? From what I remember.
Sounds right.
Yeah, you're like, I think so. We did a whole series on Genie Plus where we went over these in detail. But I will say that for Radiator Springs Racers, it's a really tough one because you can try to rope drop it, but as soon as those individual lightning lanes start going into the line, it makes that line extremely long. So that one, if you can't either rope drop it or go at the very end of the night when the park is closing, right before it closes, and then nobody else can go in those individual lightning lanes. If you can't do those two times, you might want to buy an individual lightning lane for that. And I would say it's probably similar with Rise of the Resistance. If you're not going to rope drop it, that one's not open all the way till close. It closes earlier. But if you want to catch it in the evening time before the queue closes, if you're not going to do those two times and it's a must do, then you might want to consider getting individual lightning lane. That's my best advice for that.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so Disney World, let me just go park by park because that'll be the easiest. So if we're looking at Magic Kingdom, your two options for individual lightning lanes are Tron and Seven Dwarfs Mine Train. Tron, I would do virtual queue over individual lightning lane. The only reason that I would buy the individual lightning lane is if that is your top choice ride and you want to ride it twice.
Yeah. Yep.
Because that is going to run you at least $20 per person.
Whew.
Yeah. Seven Dwarfs Mine Train, I typically don't buy. It's usually $11 to $13 per person for that one. That one is fairly, I won't say easy, but if you're on your game and you know what you're doing, it's a good one to rope drop. You can ride it during fireworks, which is another time that the line will be low.
It'll be like 30 minutes, 40 minutes, depending on the day.
Which I think is reasonable. I would wait 30 minutes for that ride.
Yeah, for sure. Yes.
And then same thing with like park, like right before park close with that one. Epcot, your option for individual lightning lane is Guardians of the Galaxy. Same thing with what I said for Tron. Same thing applies to Cosmic Rewind. So if I would do the virtual queue, I would only buy it if you want to ride it twice, or like, I guess I should mention, if you miss the virtual queue and you aren't able to get it and you're worried about getting the 1 p.m., ease your anxiety. If you're willing to buy it, just buy it. When it comes to that. Do keep in mind that for those two virtual queue individual lightning lane ones, there's no standby line. So Tron and Cosmic Rewind do not have a standby line. So it's either virtual queue or individual lightning lane.
Yeah.
At Hollywood Studios, your individual lightning lane is Rise of the Resistance. And kind of similar to what Kate was talking about for the Disneyland version, you can buy it. That is honestly the easiest way to ride it if that's a top one on your list. But doing that at park close. Do not rope drop Rise of the Resistance. Please don't do it.
Yeah, it's really different in Disneyland versus Hollywood Studios. They're not the same.
Yeah, so Hollywood Studios, you do not want to rope drop Rise of the Resistance. I strongly discourage it. But doing that right within the last, 15 minutes of the park being open is a good time to go. Or if you can, honestly, the other time is if you can catch it when it's just come back up from being down, because it does tend to go down frequently.
It's true. You could just kind of stalk it during the day and see if it goes down.
If you notice that it's down and you have a little bit of time to spare, just kind of hang out in that area, peruse the marketplace, maybe do some bounty hunting, and just keep an eye on it. If you can hop in line right after it comes back up again, that's a good time to do it too. That leaves Animal Kingdom. Flight of Passage is your individual lightning lane there. I would rope drop it if I were you and you have early entry. If you do not have early entry, I would probably buy the individual lightning lane for that one. You can try and go again at park close. Like we talked about, getting in line before the end of the park day. That is another option. Animal Kingdom is tricky because it's just fact that a lot of people don't stay open to close.
Right.
So you got to kind of weigh your options with that one.
I think Flight of Passage is such a tough one because it's like, it's always long. It doesn't really matter when you go.
Yep.
Unless you're like super early in rope drop, you might be able to wait a little bit less time. But I feel like the whole day, it's just long.
Yeah.
And it just is what it is.
Yeah. And that one will cost you, generally it's around 15 for the individual lightning lane for that one. So it's kind of in the middle. Just kind of in the hierarchy, Seven Dwarfs Mine Train is your cheapest individual lightning lane. And currently Tron is your most expensive. Rise and Cosmic sit kind of on the upper mid, and Flight of Passage sits on like the lower mid, so to speak, in the hierarchy of cost for those.
Sometimes you can catch Flight of Passage if it's raining, like pouring down rain. So a lot of people will abandon that queue because a lot of it's outside. So if it starts pouring in Animal Kingdom, maybe try to head towards Flight of Passage. You might have a lot of people that are abandoning the line because they don't want to stand in the rain. So put on your poncho and go.
Right, exactly.